Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Whiskey Hour podcast. We are here sitting down with just another bottle of whiskey.
Hello.
Oh, hi. You're here as well.
Guys, we have Instagram now.
What?
I have Instagram.
Oh, yes. We do. Please do follow us on Instagram at...
The Whiskey Hour Podcast.
Is it Whiskey Hour Podcast or the Whiskey Hour Podcast?
It's the Whiskey Hour Podcast.
The Whiskey Hour Podcast.
Come on, now I have to check.
Please do check, but please do follow us on the Whiskey Hour Podcast.
It is the Whiskey Hour Podcast.
On Instagram. And of course, you can find the Whiskey Hour Podcast wherever you get your podcasts from. Welcome, everybody, to the next episode. Ugna, how you doing?
I am doing quite all right. Quite well. How are you?
I'm good. And I just want to go back to that for a second, because I think in the previous episode or the one before, you were I'm okay, Corona, okay. Yeah. What changed?
I got used to Corona.
Mm-hmm.
And as a fact, no one is actually distancing, at all, I mean. So I'm just good now. I don't even care anymore. If Corona is my new life, I accept it fully.
You know, I was actually talking about this to one of our team members yesterday. And we were talking about how long the effects of Corona is going to continue.
Mm-hmm.
And how normal is not going to be normal anymore.
Oh, no.
This is somewhat the new normal that we have in our lives.
Yeah.
And honestly, I like it.
Right? I have a feeling that after Corona ends, people are going to be so obsessed with regular hygiene and washing their hands, using hand sanitizer, using gloves when needed, properly cleaning everything they touch, especially if we're talking about supermarkets and airports and public transports. I think those are going to be cleaned up way more regularly than before.
Yeah, the effects of the social and the psychological effects of Corona is going to last much longer than the economical effects of Corona. And obviously, I mean, we have our own business. The economical effect of Corona is hitting us just like it's hitting a lot of other people. But the social and the psychological impacts of Corona is going to last with us for much longer.
Yeah, that it will. What do you think? What do you think is going to stay based on what we're experiencing currently with Corona outbreak? What do you think is still going to be visible?
As in something that happened because of Corona and is going to remain with us?
Exactly.
Ooh, that's a tough one. More attention to hygiene, that's for sure. And I think the change in work. So for many years, the whole idea of remote working has been flying around human resource departments. A lot of companies, especially a lot of bigger corporates, have been sort of trying to attract talent by saying that, hey, we offer remote working. You can work from home whenever you want. And all of that. But in practice, I've seen a lot of a bit more conservative corporates still holding on to the idea that if you're not in the office, we don't know what you're doing and you're not productive. And I know this sort of from people that I know who are working with corporates, those people that I talk to quite regularly, that they're, well, let's say a little bit more senior team members have come to a realization that working from home isn't necessarily a drop in productivity. People don't have to punch the timesheets in and out, for particular times of the day to get the work done. And we're sort of seeing how that mindset is also sort of changing because of Corona. So Corona somewhat really forced working remote to become a thing and actually prove that it can actually work.
Okay.
And I think that's going to stay with us. People are going to be more open to the idea of working from home, working remotely, working even when they're on holiday because of Corona.
Yeah.
But what do you think about that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Another interesting thing I believe is telemedicine.
The what?
The telemedicine.
Okay.
I feel like for some doctor checkups, especially now, I know it's being done. If you're experiencing some of the symptoms of corona, or actually just any kind of feverish, not even corona related, now doctors are accepting phone calls for a consultation. Yeah. And what I personally understood that maybe that is a new way to go. Maybe for some treatments, you don't actually need to be physically present
at the doctor's office.
Exactly.
Right.
Because that way you are also limiting the exposure of your own illness, especially if it's the flu. Now, COVID-19, you're sort of limiting your exposure for the
to
other
spread
people.
Whatever
exactly,
it is.
Exactly.
Right. I
believe that telemedicine is gonna become a thing.
Yeah, sooner. I think a lot of sort of industries that we're sort of thinking a little bit ahead.
Yeah.
A lot of those too far-fetched ideas are actually becoming a thing. So for example, what I'm seeing now, us as a media company, we're seeing a lot more requests for webinars and podcasts and a lot more remote communication and content creation ideas.
Yeah.
Sort of the whole and this goes way beyond just regular seminars and stuff like that. But we're talking about co-creation programs, matchmaking programs, and all of that. People never thought that those things could take place online. Which, by the way, is a lot of interesting things have happened because of Corona, because of the usage of more webinar tools. A lot of cracks in the system have been discovered with some of the platforms. I'm not going to mention which, but some of them having privacy issues and all of that. So this sort of sudden change is going to change the way we look at life for the long term.
I completely agree. But you're mentioning here seminars taking place online instead of in person.
Right.
How do you think that's going to affect the housing, the rental, the venue industry?
The way I look at that is when automation came along, right? And people were like, okay, so I'm not required to lift this box and put it away. A robot is going to do that. So I'm going to lose my job. And that's the sort of the God, I have to be politically correct here. I would say the conservative way of thinking.
Okay.
Looking at the short term of it. And sure, yes, if your job was to move boxes from point A and place them at point B, automation is going to take that away. That started happening back 20, 30, 40 years ago. But a lot of new jobs were created for people to create those robots, for people to operate and maintain those robots.
Okay.
So we don't necessarily have to think about how the industry is going to be affected or, sure, it's important to think about it, but we don't have to worry about our jobs because a change isn't necessarily going to destroy jobs. It's going to create new opportunities. A similar case came up when I was doing a lot of research into drones. For some of you who don't know me, I actually have a degree in engineering. I studied engineering and now I have a media company. Yay, I don't know what I did with my life. I don't know how this happened. But as part of one of the projects I was doing, we were looking into drones and their feasibility to be used in a wide spectrum. And one of the things that we discovered was that people were worried, especially the delivery guys, were worried that drones are going to take over their jobs. But not really, because somebody still needs to operate the drones, right? So, yes, part of the change in the industries needs to involve re-educating people, bringing them, teaching them, and retraining them for what is needed. And that absolutely needs to happen. And that's sort of part of the say the governments or NGOs or just even the industry to get out there and teach people what the new opportunities are and how to capitalize on them, how to train people for those opportunities. So with this as well, I would say yes, venues might be affected. Yes, event spaces might be affected. But we have a whole new spectrum of opportunities for conducting things online.
Do you think that's going to make it even more global based?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Up until now, with a lot of programs, we were quite limited to the geographical location. Now we can quite literally open up to the world. Everywhere in the world, people can connect. And well, I mean, in all honesty, that's great. And sure, one of my other businesses is public speaking training, and we haven't been able to hold a single workshop this entire time.
Yeah.
In the UK, in the Netherlands, and in Malaysia, the countries that we're operating in, and it's been difficult financially. But for me, the way I see it is, sure, our model was always based on training people how to speak in public in front of others. But now there is a whole new market out there, the need to speak on video, to speak in front of a camera and still be natural and authentic and true to yourself.
Okay.
So yes, things are affected, but they're not bad. Things happen for a reason and we have to change. The only thing that's a constant in life is change. And this is just another change. We just have to change with the time.
Yeah, I will completely agree with you on this one. However, I do think that there is a necessity for human interaction, no matter what way we're looking at it. Especially because, well, networking is a thing. Body language, body perception, your look, the way you speak with another person in their face is slightly different than you would speak in front of a camera.
Yeah, very different.
And I believe that no matter what the online opportunities might be, and I'm pretty sure that more webinars are going to be held online. And some venues are definitely going to be influenced by this long term. But nothing is going to take away the feeling of seeing a speaker speak live, being able to go and congratulate him, be able to go talk to him, the networking opportunities these events bring. I think no matter what, the venue lifespan is still safe.
Yeah. I mean, like, we're all going to get back to some form of normalcy.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to the events industry. And of course, the two of us are working parallel with the events industry. We're not, we're providing services to the events industry, which, personally for our business, we felt a shift in the sort of services needed, but we haven't felt lack of need.
No, but we also have to take into consideration that the business you are running in, the media business, it's flexible, it's adaptable, it's constantly changing.
Especially with we're digital.
We're digital.
Right.
We are the people that have to constantly think of new ideas of how to change, how to bring new change in. We are not the stagnant people that are used to just talking for the live audience, that are used to just allowing people into their venue. Because even if you take the other jobs as administrators, slowly these jobs will have to take a shift probably to more of a secretarial job.
Right.
Instead of administrating and like inviting people in, like front desk workers.
Mm-hmm.
We have to take into consideration that I don't want to call them lower end jobs.
Different.
But yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like the base jobs.
Yeah.
The ones that you start off with, more or less.
Yeah. I mean that's the whole, that comes as part of the package. There's no denying that economy has shrunk.
Yeah.
Because of the coronavirus.
Definitely.
Wait, hang on. Did we even plan to talk about coronavirus this much on this episode? I have a feeling we need a little bit more whiskey over here.
We're just keeping it real. Corona impacts everything.
Well, actually, one thing that I noticed the other day was how little I've been paying attention to the news of coronavirus.
True.
There was a time I used to check the statistics on a daily basis, and right now I'm going to check the statistics solely because I haven't done that in a number of days, which I feel quite strange about. But do have to mention today, the day that we're recording this is the 6th of May, and there are a total of 3,795,667 cases reported globally. So we are very close to 4 million confirmed cases and more than 250,000 deaths. That got grim. And as that happened, the light in our office turned off. So the office understands.
The office understands.
Yeah. But what I wanted to say is how little I've been paying attention to the news and the statistics because, and I think in my mind, at least personally, this is just life now.
It is.
This is how it's gonna be.
It really is, yes.
And I don't mean to say that in a grim way. Obviously we're gonna find a vaccine to this virus.
Oh yeah.
But the social and the psychological implications of the coronavirus is gonna last with us for a very, very long time.
Definitely.
With that being said,
stop me up, brother.
Let's take a refill break and let's get back to the Whiskey Hour podcast.
With this entire corona situation going on right now, many people were actually almost forced to move back home.
Yeah.
I know
there are a lot of sublet places available.
Yeah, I know, like, from my own friends' perspectives, most of which are students, actually.
Right.
Because
international students, obviously.
International students, exactly. Wanting to be closer to their families, wanting to have that option to go to their own home doctors. They decided to leave early for home to wait out this pandemic going on.
True. And also, like, 2 of our team members left as well.
True, yes, exactly.
Yeah, 2 of our team members left, I think, on one of the last flights they could catch out of the country to go back to their respective countries before they close the border. So, yeah, a lot of people have left.
Yeah, and so many more were stuck here alone.
Mm-hmm.
However, those...
Like your dad?
Oh, like my dad, yes. For those who don't know, before this entire corona crisis hit, I bought my dad a vacation to Madeira.
We talked about that, I think, last episode.
I think so as well.
Yeah, one of the episodes we talked about, like, your dad getting stuck here.
Yeah, but, well, if you didn't listen to it, he got stuck here in the Netherlands with me until we managed to get him actually on a flight back home.
Yeah.
But in general, with going back home, so much anxiety. So much.
Like, in terms of, like, living with parents?
Yeah, like, coming back home to a place where you haven't been for probably quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, don't get me wrong, in my own personal view, I've been living in the Netherlands now for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
I moved back for like half a year last year to do my internship.
Right.
but I wasn't really home, because I used to just go to internship, like office the
Yeah.
entire day. So I was only home for the weekend.
But you went back again in December? Christmas?
Yeah, I did. Yes. I went home for Christmas for the entire month.
Right.
I didn't really have much going on. I thought, why not? And that for me personally also brought so much anxiety. You being in the previous place you used to reside in, seeing
Mm-hmm.
how everything has changed. You have changed, and you're trying to integrate back into society, which you've left eventually.
So you went back home just to find out that you were a foreigner.
Exactly.
Mm.
I realized, I think, and I've been there for 4 weeks in total. The first week back, I was happy. I
It's the
was a
best week back. You're the guest.
Yeah, I am the guest.
Yeah.
I was treated nicely. Second week in, I realized, okay, well, I still have some people to see, stuff to do.
Right.
Let me get into that. And also, the second week was the Christmas, so
Blue wine.
glue wines. Fun fact, actually, no, it was whiskey.
Of course, it was whiskey.
Of course, it was whiskey. My dad is a huge whiskey drinker as well, so more of a whiskey. But anyway. And then New Year's came around.
Mm-hmm.
But then after New Year's finished, I still had 2 more weeks to go. Me being back home for 2 extra weeks is what actually got me in like the anxiety mode.
Right.
It's like you're walking down the street. You used to walk probably at least once a week on the regular basis.
Right.
But you don't feel home. You do feel like a tourist because most of the places and most of the shops, most of the coffee shops, everything is new to you once again. You're
Sorry, just a
rediscovering
side note. Coffee shops, as in cafes where they actually serve you coffee.
Yeah, yes.
Not
yes.
the Dutch coffee shops.
No.
Where
No.
they serve you Mary J.
Yes. No. I
MJ,
am
baby.
talking about the actual coffee shops where they serve coffee, like, the Starbucks of different countries.
Caffeine, coffee beans.
Caffeine, coffee beans, roasts.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Not
No.
the grinder, though.
Nah. But yeah, so like you come back and you're like, oh my gosh, this opened up. And now this is there as well. But what is this?
So you just come back and you see all the changes.
Yes, you're a tourist once again. Except in my case, I do speak the language. I do know some of the people. But then I get into there, and even if I see my old classmates, if I see my old friends,
Right.
I'm still like, oh, I haven't seen you actually in quite a while. I've changed a lot. Hi. I don't have anything in common with you anymore. I would love to reestablish the connection, but I'm not there full time to be able to do that.
Yeah, I can sort of see what you mean with that. Because I think, I've moved around a lot.
Mm-hmm.
God, it's actually one of the funny things, right? Like, so when someone asks me where you're from, like, you want the short version or the long one? Because the long one requires a whole bottle of whiskey and us to be free the next day, because this is going to be a long ass story, Fred.
Like, I know you are from more than one country. Where were you born exactly?
I'm actually not from more than one country. I am born and raised till the age of 14, as many generations as I know back, from Iran.
Oh,
a very small town named Qazvin. Nobody can pronounce it correctly. Everybody will say Qazvin or whatever. It's Qazvin. It's about an hour away from Tehran, the capital city. I'm from there. My mom, my dad, everyone is from that town. And I was born and raised in the same. Well, I was born in Tehran. There's better hospitals. But I was raised in my town, very proudly from my town. but then I moved when I was 14.
Okay.
Or 14, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like just one of those things, like, because a year before that, my sister moved to Malaysia to complete her master's degree.
Mm-hmm.
And a year after, my dad told me, we're moving to Malaysia.
Okay.
And as a 13-year-old at that time, and life was a little bit hazy for me as a 13-year-old.
Okay.
Some stuff, a lot of stuff. There will be an episode where I will get emotional and I will talk about them. But this is not one. Life was very hazy for me at that time. So my dad told me, we're moving to Malaysia. And I said, cool. But Dad, I don't want to move. Like, I really like my friends here. I really like my life here. But then, as a 14-year-old, you don't really get an option. It's like your dad is like, we're moving. It's like, okay, cool. So we did. And at that time, my family is a bit of a complicated one because my dad was retired, my mom was retired. And I later found out the only reason that they moved all the way to Southeast Asia was for me to get international education, was for me to actually be able to speak English.
So would you say your family actually sacrificed their own hometown, their own sort of well-being to give you something they couldn't have?
Okay. This requires a lot of in-depth conversation with my parents, which I don't normally have.
Okay.
My parents and I have we can't really see eye to eye. That's to say the very least. But I would need to drink a lot with my dad to have a better understanding of that. But I know for a fact that my dad had the opportunity to go abroad to study, but he didn't.
Okay.
For whatever reason at that time, and he blames himself. He absolutely blames himself for not doing so. Because, okay, how can I tell this without getting political? 1979, Iranian Revolution happened. Universities closed down. My dad was in the midst of his studies. So he never actually got to finish his education as an engineer. So the university sort of closed down for a couple of years. After that, they gave him an equivalent diploma, a level lower than a bachelor's degree.
Oh.
So my dad is technically educated to be an engineer, but he's not qualified as one. But anyways, so he sort of always regrets. He always regretted not going abroad to study, but I don't know exactly what the factor was for them to decide. I know for a fact that my younger sister, I have two sisters. By the time I left the country, my older sister, who's 11 years older than me, she was already married. By the way, she just gave birth about a month ago.
Yay,
to
congratulations.
her first child. Probably her only child because she never wanted to be a mom. Okay, so this actually goes into like a lot of like backstories. She wasn't cleared, medically cleared to be pregnant and have a kid.
Okay.
Because she has MS, multiple sclerosis.
Yeah.
But a couple years ago, she got cleared to get pregnant, and when she got pregnant, she decided to keep the kid.
Yeah, of course.
Her name is Lena.
Oh.
She is adorable.
Aww.
Absolutely love her. From distance, obviously. I haven't seen her yet.
Also Corona.
She's a Corona baby.
Corona baby.
She was born during the Corona pandemic in Iran, one of the worst hit countries in the world.
As Lena, the Corona baby.
But so my elder sister was married already. My younger sister, she was 1 year in Malaysia to do her master's. And I think she was a major factor for us to move there.
And did she move back or?
No, she's still in Malaysia.
Okay, nice.
She's now working in Malaysia as a business development manager, from what I understand. We keep in touch, but like, yeah.
So you moved basically from Iran to
Iran. You Americanized. Iran. Every time an American says Iran, I'm like, yes, I ran from Iran. Iran.
All right, so you moved from Iran
Thank you.
to Malaysia when you were around 14?
Yeah. Back in 2008.
Back in 2008.
Back in 2008, I moved from Iran to Malaysia. The first time I was ever out of the country. It was very strange because I was born, I was raised in this small town.
Mm-hmm.
I knew everyone around me. And it was one of those towns, our family was a little bit well known.
And where exactly in the Malaysia did you move?
I moved to the capital city, Kuala Lumpur.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that must have been a huge change for you.
I mean, I moved from a city with a population of probably 500,000 to a city where the world's tallest twin towers were.
Oh, yeah.
Like I saw the Petronas Twin Towers on a daily basis. My school was about 5 minutes away from the Twin Towers.
So, wait, did you go to like an actual school, not like actual as in Malaysian school?
No, I went to an international school.
International school.
I went to an international school.
Okay.
That's where I got exposed to British education system.
All right. So, the school you went to, basically, they taught everything in English. Did you get extra lessons in Malay?
It wasn't a requirement when I joined. So I didn't actually learn any Bahasa Melayu, which is the name of the language, Malaysian language. Which is a big shame for me. I never really learned how to speak the language properly, apart from ordering my food in Bahasa. I can hold my own, It's like I can have like small conversation in Bahasa, even though I lived there for combined, I think 8 or 9 years.
Okay.
But it was a big change. I think that was the biggest change for me moving, because I went from a small town, and I come from a family of teachers, and a couple of my uncles, they moved abroad. They live in the UK. They live in Denmark and all kinds of places. And, English education was one of the top things in my family. It's like, you learn Farsi, great. You also learn English because we know for a fact that you will be moving out of the country at some point in your life. And I was exposed to like English classes. I had private tutoring. I was going to some of the best English academies. I was always the best in English language with the Iranian curriculum. And I was always so confident with it because I was way ahead of everyone else with my English skills. I used to watch English movies and listen to English music. And then I moved to Malaysia. And that's when I realized my English was trash.
Oh, yeah.
You don't learn a language unless you practice it.
That you don't.
Right? And for years, I was exposed to all these books with grammar, vocabulary, and all of that. And my grammar was great. I correct native speakers' grammars.
See, that's where I am the complete opposite.
Right.
I started off going to like a private school where we got taught English from like the first year. And when I changed the schools, I think in my 5th year, I went to a different school, which was a public school already. I felt like, I can correct everybody. Yeah. Because my English is better. But then when the time came, I did not know grammar. I constantly thought that, hey, I'm better than most of the people in English in my class.
I correct your grammar all the time.
So did I in the first couple of years until year 10 or 11th rolled around, almost time to graduate, and people started asking us about past simple, past participle, and any other English grammar times you can think of.
Tenses.
They are called tenses,
They're
everybody.
called tenses. Yeah. I worked as an English teacher. Please excuse me.
I think that is the difference for you as well, coming from Iran and to Malaysia.
Malaysia, going to an international school,
Going to an international school.
British system, international school. I thought I knew English.
Yeah.
And then I discovered through one test that I don't know crap.
So wait, let me get it straight. So did you know grammar or did you know vocabulary?
I knew grammar, I knew vocabulary, but I could not use the language. The knowledge was in my head because I had studied these things.
Okay.
But I could not use it. When someone would say something to me and I would be like, pardon me, I'm sorry, I don't understand. You know, it was... And, you know, it was crushing.
Was it the accent?
No, I didn't necessarily... I mean, obviously I had a bit of an accent, but like...
No. I mean, was it the accent of the other people?
Yes. Malaysians, they have a very interesting accent. I would call it the rainbow of accents. It's a soup. It's beautiful. It's very colorful. Well, a lot of different. It's a soup of different accents.
It's like what the
Malaysia in itself is a multicultural country. So you have Bumiputras, the Malays. You've got the Chinese. You've got Indians, and then everyone sort of has their own language.
So it's almost like the minestrone of soup.
It's
throw whatever you have in it.
Yeah. And so it's really mixed, multicultural. Absolutely love that perspective of Malaysia. So yes, there was an element of their accent, but it was soul crushing for someone like me because I was always the top English. I was always the top student in my school, and I was going to the best private school in my city. You know, I had like bloody Olympiads, gold records, and stuff like that. And then I go to this school. They hand me an English test and a mathematics test. And I'm like, the maths test, I don't understand anything that's written on the question, but I know what they want me to do because my maths is bloody good. My mama is a maths teacher. She has a bachelor's degree in mathematics. I learned the multiplication table before I even learned how to write.
Just to clarify, you were always good in math, right?
The best.
And then you went to do engineering.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, my mama was a maths teacher. Like, my maths was perfect. I didn't know what was written in the question, but I looked at the question and I knew what they wanted. Okay. So I got it done. You know what? If there's an X in the figure, I know I'm supposed to find the X.
Yeah.
And, maths doesn't require language. I know how to find the X.
Yeah.
When it came to the English test, I was crushed.
Oh.
And next thing you know, I'm placed in this class. I was supposed to go to grade 10, but there was no, you could only enter grade 10 when your English was sufficient.
Okay.
So I was placed in grade 9, but not the mainstream of grade 9. I was placed in a special stream of grade 9 of the English intensive program. And there I was handed books that were, written for children.
Oh, wow.
And I look at this book and I look at the mathematics. They only taught us English and mathematics. It's a really old school kind of education where if you know mathematics, if you know physics and science, you're smart. If you're with the humanities side, you're...
Thank you, education. I might be with the humanities side.
Very old school.
Yeah, so old school. Like, I don't belong in either one of those.
Listen, I always admire the people who could, who were in the arts class.
I wasn't in the art class either. I was geography. I'm good at geography, guys.
Dude, I was in the so-called smart people's class.
Yeah.
But I always admired everyone else on the other side of the.
Ah.
I was like, but this is easy.
That makes sense. Why now you're doing media?
But yeah, I was put in this classroom, and the maths teacher would come, and I'm just like sitting there completely soul crushed. I'm a year below. I'm in a special stream. I feel like a complete dumbass. I was the best science student in the entire state. I have a whole plaque to prove it, I had the gold prize in science Olympiads, and I'm next thing you know, it's like next year I'm just sitting there like, okay, I don't speak the language, I guess, and I'm just sitting there in the maths class, and the teacher comes in and she does some stuff, and I'm like, I'm faster than the teacher.
Ooh.
I'm better than the teacher. Your method sucks.
What a burn for the teacher, though.
Nothing on her. She was really nice, though.
But to be completely correct, you still could not speak English.
I could not. And you know what? I got a story for that one. So we had one teacher who was supposed to be our sort of the overall teacher who taught us English and managed the whole program. And one day, very frustrated, I looked at the book, and in my broken English at that time, 2008, I told her, teacher, this book for children.
No. Did you actually?
I did. And she replied with one of the most condescending tones I've ever heard, saying, because children can speak English better than you.
Oh, what a burn. Bless the teacher.
You know what?
Oh my gosh.
You know what? Let's take a refill break, and I'm going to tell you what I did right after that. So Miss Christina, she told me that children speak English better than me. And you know what? It's fair. I could not speak English. In 2008, when I entered an international school, after having moved from Iran, where I spoke Farsi the entire time, obviously I had a lot of English education, but I couldn't speak English. It was heartbreaking. It really crushed me. It really crushed my confidence. But you know what? If anybody knows me, they know that I don't take these things lightly. When you tell me I suck, I'm going to go back. And I'm going to prove you wrong. And I'm going to do it in a spectacular fashion.
Ooh. I see some drama coming along this place.
It was basically, she gave us some 20 different topics to write essays on the entire semester. I went back, I stayed up 48 hours, and I wrote essays on all the 20 topics over one entire weekend.
Oh, wow.
I had an electronic dictionary, an English to Farsi dictionary, and a vice versa. Just ginormous books, the ones that we had back then.
Yeah.
And I handed in Monday morning. I went to school, and I went to the class, and I just put the papers. It was probably around 40 sheets of paper. I just put on her desk, and I said, I'm leaving this class. My English is good enough. Maybe I can't speak it. And by the way, I had spent a lot of time in front of a mirror practicing my speech.
And what did Miss Christina say?
Well, she looked at it, still being a little condescending as a teacher, unfortunately, is, I don't know, stereotype to be. So she kind of looked at it. She's like, okay, I'll let you know. And then she got the coordinator come and speak to me. And she said, well, you know what? We're going to give you a chance.
Ooh,
to go to the main class.
So you almost got that perfect mic drop. But then it was very soft.
I got a little bit of a nudge. Was like, okay, we see you onto something.
Okay.
Now let's put you in the main class and put you in the English literature class.
Ooh. So basically, You went from not being really able to speak English.
I went from, hello, my name is Ali, to of mice and men.
Ah.
I don't know if you've ever read the book, but so a month and a half later, first semester, first term exams are coming up. I believe I read Of Mice and Men some 10 times. For anybody who's read the book, it's not English. It's
It's not English.
It's literature, all right?
It is literature.
So there's a lot of things that like they don't necessarily reconcile with English grammar and English rules.
Yeah.
So I read this book 10 times, and I actually passed all the subjects. Literature passed it with a 50.
Ooh.
Exactly a 50.
Was it like scale-wise, right? System.
Percentage.
Okay, percentage. Yeah. How much did you need to pass a class?
50.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay,
so
cool.
Hit the 50, passed it. Science, passed it, obviously. Maths, aced it. Needless to say. History, economics, all of those passed it. And then I asked to move to, I asked to be moved to the next year because I was supposed to be in year 10. Everything that I was doing was like, I know this stuff. Like, English is my problem, but like, I can catch up. It was a lot of sleepless nights. It was a lot of sessions with when I say younger sister, she is the younger of my two sisters who are both older than me. So she's 8 years older than me, but she's my younger sister.
Okay.
It was a lot of 6-hour sessions with my sister, stuffed in the bedroom, going through books, translating them and trying to understand them. It was soul crushing, to say the very least. I didn't have a Christmas break. I went through a number of English language books in that time. And when I came out in term 2, I said, I'm moving to year 10.
Yeah.
Give me the test. English, mathematics, give it to me.
Okay.
I did it. They're like, okay, wait a second. Do another one.
Oh.
We're not entirely sure. Just do another one. I did it. And then they're like, okay, you know what? You go ahead to year 10.
And you came victorious out of it.
I came victorious, and then I failed everything in year 10.
Oh, no!
I was disintegrated in that class.
So is it safe to assume that by the time you actually came through the year 9,
right,
the cultural shock set in? Because I know for a fact that me and many of my friends who moved to another country, the first year or the first half a year or whatever year it is, it's like, cool, you're sort of getting it through. And then the reality sets in, you're going there, but hey, you're in different environments.
Okay. So when it comes to cultural differences, you and I have had a slightly different experience.
Yeah.
Now, with the future moves that I made from Malaysia or from the other countries, because I've made a number of moves across continents, the cultural shock was a bigger factor. Moving from Iran to Malaysia, I was 14.
Ooh.
And my only goal in life at that time was to speak English and excel in my education that my parents sacrificed their lives for.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of moments of cultural shock, like burping.
What?
Burping,
Yeah? Okay. What?
In my culture, you don't burp.
Yeah, you don't. That's quite disrespectful.
Well, not necessarily in Southeast Asia.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And another one was food.
Yeah.
Growing up, Iranian food is not really spicy. We use a lot of spices, don't get me wrong, but we don't use hot spices like chili or pepper.
Okay.
Especially the part where I come from. I would say before moving to Malaysia, a quarter of a teaspoon of black pepper used to be way too much. And then I moved to Malaysia, and I kid you not, my sister who lived in Malaysia, went and ordered some fried rice for me.
Okay.
She specifically requested them to not put any chili in there. They just put some like chicken curry in there.
Yeah.
They had pre-cooked, and that thing gave me diarrhea for an entire week.
No way.
I could not digest spices. You see what kind of food I eat these days, right?
Oh, just to clarify, we have this Surinamese place close to here.
Mm-hmm.
He just goes and gets like the spicy chili sauce thingy, and he's fine.
Yeah.
Not even crying, not even sweating. He's just like chill with it. I tried it once. I tried the food once in general. My body didn't take the food, yet alone my body didn't even take the chili. That was the easier chili.
Right.
And I can handle my spices pretty all right, I would say, as well.
Well, yeah. For a
European.
Yeah.
Not for a European, I can handle my spices, you know?
Yeah, you know, all right.
I could go to a restaurant and be like, I would like a spicy whatever that's suitable for my allergic reaction thing. And they would be like, okay, and I could eat that.
Mm-hmm.
But give me anything with a culture and I'm dead.
Yeah. No, that changed for me.
When did it change?
Hmm?
When did it change? How long did it take you to adapt to it?
I would say about 2 years. It took a number of episodes with indigestion, diarrhea, explosive diarrhea. For literally an entire week, my body was like, what did you put in me? What in the world is this? I can't digest this. This is bad. That happened for a while. To the point that I was literally scared of Malaysian food.
Oh no.
And Malaysia is a food heaven. You know, if you go to Malaysia, you've just got to eat.
Yeah. So like you have told me before, there are plenty of food courts in there.
Malaysia is a food heaven. There is, you've got Malay cuisine, you've got the Chinese cuisine, you've got the Indian cuisine, and then you got all the fusion stuff. It's the place to go and eat. You know, Charles came with me to Malaysia.
Mm-hmm.
One of our colleagues, my business partner, and he just ate. That's all I can say. For weeks, he just ate, and I believe he picked up a couple of kilos while in Malaysia, as you should. If you're not picking up a couple of kilos in Malaysia, you're doing it wrong. Charles picked up a couple of kilos. Look, Malaysia, amazing cuisine.
Yeah.
But I could not stomach it.
So did you have like a proper kitchen or any other way of preparing your meals? Or
I was living with my parents.
So your parents did prepare your meals on a regular basis?
Right. So my school did provide lunch.
Okay. Was it as spicy though?
So there were some meals that I could not digest.
Okay.
A lot of times they will be serving stuff, and I would just sort of be like, "Don't give me the sauce" and stuff like that.
Okay.
It was only probably after 2 years that I sort of really got used to the food. But I was living with my parents, so my breakfast, dinner was all with my parents.
Okay.
And they obviously cooked food from back home.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a really different experience moving from Iran to Malaysia, as you know, for example, you did coming to the Netherlands as almost an adult.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah. When did you move to the Netherlands?
2016.
You were 18?
I was 17.
Okay.
I was on the edge of being 17 to 18.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that time.
And obviously you moved alone,
I did move alone.
right?
Yeah.
I moved with my parents. So
Yeah.
like, they were there to take care of me. Um it was so the cultural shock. Um they were big.
Yeah.
There were a lot of things that were total WTFs.
For example.
Woo. Um, you see, here's the thing. I can't go that they're WTFs now because I lived in Malaysia for 8 years,
Okay.
right? So
Yeah.
that kind of became my culture as well. And that's when we talk about where I'm from, I'm like, you want the long version or the short version? Because my passport says I'm from Iran.
Yeah.
But okay, I'm proud of being an Iranian, but I'm also proud of the fact that to a certain extent, I am a Malaysian.
Uh-huh.
I am also a bit of a British. I am also a bit of a Dutch. I am a bit of a Lao because I did live in Laos.
So basically, you are what a person would refer to as a world, like a global citizen,
A third culture kid.
a third culture kid.
A third culture kid, right?
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily adhere to one culture. I have all these cultures in me.
So let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
What is like the main language you use on a daily basis? English.
English is not my mother tongue, but it's my dominant tongue.
Yeah.
My
dominant
prominent one, I guess.
See, this is what I have.
My Farsi sucks.
Oh, to that extent.
Oh, like I would. Okay, so there were a couple of. My sister sent me a picture of her. She sent me a selfie of her and Lena.
Yeah.
The infant that yeah.
The cutie.
And I spent the entire morning making memes because Lena had this face of like, what are you doing to me, person? Stop. Like, I'm so uncomfortable with this whole thing.
Memeable character, everybody.
And I started making memes of that. And apparently I started to make a bunch of Farsi memes. But apparently I misspelled one of the words.
Oh, no.
And my sister made fun of me. Both of my sisters made fun of me. My mama made fun of me.
Oh,
I was
no.
like, by the time my mom told me about my error, I was like, Mom, I know it. Stop. Stop. I know my Farsi sucks. All right.
Oh, that is painful.
Hey, it's my mother tongue, but hey, I've been educated in a whole different language, so
basically, no matter where you were born and no matter if you say that you speak Farsi, you don't actually speak it compared to a local.
Oh,
or
listen, here's the thing. I am a third culture kid. I am what you would refer to as a citizen of the world. I'm making the hand gestures. You understand? I don't know how to explain the hand gestures on
quote unquote.
Yeah, quote unquote citizen of the world.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I'm homeless. That's the truth of it.
Yeah.
Because when I was in Malaysia, I was treated as a foreigner. Heck, I've got a lot of stories that maybe one day we'll talk about. I probably need to get a lawyer on board before I talk about it. In the UK, treated as a foreigner. In Laos, treated as a foreigner. The reason why I love the Netherlands as probably one of the only countries that I've lived in that I would maybe one day want to call home is that I was never treated as a foreigner. I can get into that, but I can say there is little to no institutional difference between foreigner and a local in the Netherlands. And I absolutely love that about this country.
Homelessness. Difficult topic for all of us who moved out of our house to live abroad, to, go into another culture and look for a better life in most of the cases, to be honest.
No, yeah. Agreed. And I mean, in my case, I never really went back home.
Hmm.
Like, as in by really, I mean, like, I never went back home.
So you haven't, you mean back home?
In Iran.
Oh, so you haven't been to Iran since.
What? Iran.
You haven't been to Iran since. So like
Americanized.
Americanized. There's nothing wrong. Also, like, the trip was nice.
We'll talk about your trip to America. Soon enough, we will.
So
But no, I haven't been to Iran since the time I left.
but do you still keep in touch with some people living there?
Well, it's difficult to say.
First of all, like, do your parents still live in there?
My parents moved back home to Iran when I moved to the UK.
Okay. And did your sister, I'm assuming, I know that one of them lives in Malaysia still?
One lives in Malaysia still, and the other one lives in Iran,
Okay.
obviously.
Okay.
She does visit,
Yeah.
but she doesn't have the national service hanging over her head.
Oh.
So if I go back to Iran, I'm not able to leave for 2 years or so because I have to serve in the national service.
Okay. So
The curse of being from the Middle East.
So you are quite literally homeless at this point.
I have been quite literally homeless for about 12 years now.
Wow.
Yeah. And homeless is one strong word to put it. And I think homeless comes with a negative connotation.
So, like, homelessness for you, is that more of a feeling of not having a country to belong to or not having the right people around?
Well, you see, this is what I mean, right? The word homeless has a negative connotation.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, it's not. Like I said earlier, I'm proud of the Persian heritage that I have with me. I'm also very much proud of the the multicultural life that I've lived. In the East, in the West, and I think that's what makes me who I am as an individual, being the soup of cultures. This soup
Being
of
in the
culture.
Minnesota.
Having all these cultures live within me, and I've always taken pride of that. The fact that I know so much about living in Malaysia, in Laos. I know so much about all these different places, and I want to know more. A lot of times I get the question because there are some like routes for me to go to Iran and all that. And I get the question from fellow Iranians like, why don't you ever go back? Don't you miss the family and all? And I'm like, sure, I miss the family, I miss my cousins and all of that. But there is so much in the world that I haven't seen. There are so many places in the world I haven't been to or I haven't lived in that I want to know so much about.
Yeah.
And to me, going back home, it's not a clear definition. It's not a clear cut thing that home is this geographical location.
So is it flawed to assume that for you, home is more where the people are?
Is where I am.
Where you are?
In the UK, I was obviously in a student housing thing.
Just to clear things out, you went to UK for study purposes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was there to finish my master's.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I would tell my friends there and say, I'm gonna go home, referring to my little 12 square meter room. And they would be like, home? Like, what do you mean? My home is in London. My home is in Manchester.
Oh, yeah.
This isn't home. This is just like that room I sleep in.
That actually, yes, that very much reminds me as well of most of my experience as well living abroad. A lot of times I'm like, well, I'm going to go home. but I refer to my home when I'm here in the Netherlands as back home in my own country. And
Right.
when I'm back home with my parents, I refer to going back home to the Netherlands.
Yeah. Like, you see, the old school definition of home with, globalization, internationalization that especially our generation has gone through, it's not clear cut anymore.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Home for me for a number of years was where literally my red luggage was, with my clothes and a couple of items that I hold very close to me,
Okay.
including my laptop.
Hey, I mean, you gotta keep in touch, right? You gotta work.
Yeah. I mean, I gotta work. My work is not my laptop.
Exactly.
But the definition of home, it's not clear cut. It's in the gray area. It's redefining itself,
Mm.
and it's a different definition for each of us. And someone like me, I will never know the feeling of being in a small town where I know everyone. But in contrast, I know how it's like to live and work and operate completely in a country where I don't speak the native tongue.
So to end this episode, I would even say, because we're like reaching an hour mark, what is home for you?
Oh, God. I don't want to say one of those cliche things.
Mm.
Home is where the heart is.
Mm.
Home is where I feel most comfortable. And it can be in a 12 square meter room. It can be in a 120 square meter room. It can be my suitcase, or it can be me as an individual, that I feel home in me. Because every day I carry myself with the culture from my home country, but I also carry myself with the culture of all the other countries that I've lived in, that I take pride in living in, with everyone that I've known in those countries. And, I can tell you 1,000 stories about all these amazing people, all these amazing experiences I've had over the years. I live with all of those, and all of those have defined who I am, home is me. It doesn't have to be a geographical location. I don't want to get into politics. It doesn't have to be borders, because I have my very strong opinions on borders. It doesn't have to be any of those things. Home is my experiences, the people that I know, from a monk in Laos to a teacher in the UK to a business owner in Malaysia. All of those are home to me, because every place has had its distinct pivoting point in my life, in how I see myself and how I see life. Every place has had its own way of the way I look at life, the way I see myself, the way I see the world. And all of those are living within me as part of this home, quote unquote, home. It's a really great definition.
Yeah, home is something that a lot of us, and especially the future generations, will probably not know. We'll have to reestablish, we'll have to refine, redefine it. And the only thing we can truly do is find comfort in being ourselves, find comfort in being
Who we are.
who and where we are at the moment, enjoying the life and what it has to give in that particular moment, and learning from it and leaning for it.
And I think with that, let's bring this episode to an end. It's been really fun talking about the past.
Yeah. That it has.
It's there are a lot of stories that we can obviously talk about. And I think we're gonna continue doing that.
Yeah.
But in general, I think the whole concept of home is something that we definitely are going to discover because I want to know your opinion
Ah.
on home. We haven't talked about that much in this one.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in to this evening's Whiskey Hour podcast.
Oh yeah.
On this
some comfort in the house.
Comfort, home, and journey that lies ahead, I guess.
Yeah. And I guess we'll catch you on the next episode of the Whiskey Hour podcast.
Don't forget to like us on all of our social media accounts. We have a YouTube channel. We have Instagram pages. Follow us on our individual Instagram pages as well.
Yep.
It's the Whiskey Hour podcast on Instagram.
And no, I just wanted to say, please feel free to leave us a review on Apple Podcast. We'd love to have your feedback.
Yeah, thank you very much.